I want to talk about that hymn, or whatever it is. There's a story there that goes something like this, and at some point you're going to have to leave the holy manger of that moment of the dark days of the solstice, of the waiting for the light. At some time, you and me are going to have to leave the safety of that holy place. And I hope that each of you, my friends, will be guided safely into the wild. That's the story. You're going to have to leave the manger sometime. And we've got to find a way to go safely, boldly, courageously into the wild that is our lives. We're pretty good at Fountain Street Church with the getting to the manger. Advent, we just kill it, don't we? Yeah. We know all about getting there and about making it sacred and rich and deep. And we know about being in that still point. We ring our balcony with light, and we literally sit in that holy space. And what I want to invite us to now is to get serious about the next part of that story. A part I don't sense that we as a liberal culture have been very good at yet, but for which we have been made to be great. And that is a moment, a season actually, that this tradition would call Epiphany. If you were raised in the church, you know what Epiphany is. It's the moment in which the Magi, or the wise ones, come and recognize what was holy in the manger. But I got this sense, and maybe you're with me here, that we're so good at getting to the manger that, quite frankly, we haven't thought much about how it is we're going to be guided into the wild. In the Holy Scriptures of many traditions, there is a place called the wilderness, the wilderness. And it is in that place where the one goes to become more. You are the ones. And the only question of Epiphany is, are you going to choose to go into that place that requires both your courage and your imagination? That place called your life. A number of you have asked me to say a little something about this journey that I've been on, and I've been somewhat reluctant to, because quite frankly, I'm sort of tired of my story. For those of you who may be visiting today, early part of November, I made a very unexpected trip to have a quadruple bypass. And many of you have asked me to say a little something about that wild place where guys who practice yoga and eat kale don't very often go. The short answer is that I have a unique blood chemistry, as do each of you, and my blood chemistry has a serious problem with my 45-year love affair with breakfast cereal. Carbohydrates are particularly unfriendly to me. They turn almost instantaneously to arterial disease in my body. Who could have known? I mean, tricks are for kids, right? But it's the same for bread. Oh, bread. And it's the same for potatoes and pasta and all of the glorious goodness of my deep addiction to sugar in the form of grain. And so I had this Advent Christmas experience that we really weren't planning for. And Advent was still about waiting. As a matter of fact, it was like extreme heart waiting. I spent 3 days waiting in a hospital bed to have a surgery I didn't want to have. It was a gift I got without a choice. I spent a kind of focused waiting for pain medication that has taken me to a new level of understanding. And the great need to apologize profusely to the many great and wonderful nurses and family and friends who had to bear with the last moments of those waitings. There's a glossary of phrases which I have invented, which will be available after today's message. Apparently never heard before from a minister of the church. Both Dana and I waited nearly 3 weeks for a single continuous hour of sleep. Extraordinary to not sleep. And I waited to do the simplest of things, to go upstairs, to lie down, and to laugh or to sneeze without literally blinding pain overtaking my consciousness. But there was an end to the waitings. Just like there is an end to this season we are so good at Fountain Street, there was the holy moment. And whether your practice is solstice and the stillness of these 3 days in which the human eye is unable to perceive the sun's change in its arc, and so the solstice, the standing still of the sun, occurs, or whether it is a more traditional Christmas experience or Hanukkah, I, like the seasons, moved into a time in which I finally did have the energy, the spirit to give something back, to give to the ones I loved and to share. Our waiting gave way to a practice of giving thanks, and giving gifts. It's wonderful to give gifts to the ones you love, isn't it? A chance to say without words, do you know how important you are to me? Do you know that you are valuable, and I see it in you? And there's also a bit of an underbelly to that, isn't there? This deep, unspoken, grasping need we have for our gifts to be accepted in the correct way. Any of you give a gift this year, as I did to my oldest daughter, and the response was, "Oh, thanks." She asked for winter boots. And I thought, I'm just going to kill this one. I went to the cool, funky website for my bohemian daughter that had the Converse high-top sneakers with lamb's wool inside of them. I thought I had this nailed. It's boots, it's winter, it's edgy. She thought they were the dumbest thing I had ever could have thought of. And that's kind of how I thanked my surgeon. Gee, thanks. I think. Saved my life, but wow, did that hurt. So here's what I want to observe with you today. There is an important rhythm to which we know 2 of 3 parts well. And there is an opportunity for us as a community to become gifted and powerful in this 3rd rhythm called Epiphany. It is a whole season. It actually, for many traditions, begins tomorrow, January 6th. For Eastern folks in Judeo-Christian tradition, it doesn't begin until the 19th of January. And if you are someone who follows a more earth-based spirituality, the entirety of Epiphany as a tradition and practice is actually arose out of the pagan tradition called Imbolc. Imbolc is a fascinating insight into the power of this season, which responds to the gifts we have been given. And that's the point I want to land on this morning. What will you do, and who will you become in relationship to the gift or gifts you've received this season?